Hey guys, so I'm here with my beautiful dog. He's my guest today. Just kidding, he's just chilling out. But I was talking to my friend um the other day who also has a mental illness, and he told me that when he was first diagnosed, he just took what the doctor said as is and didn't research or try to find out anything about his illness. He just really didn't care. He just kind of took his word for it, and that was it. And I found that really strange because when I was diagnosed, I wanted to know everything and still do want to know everything about my illnesses and understand them. So I read books and read the internet and read blogs and forums and then started this blog and still continue to try and learn about it as much as I can and see different people's views on it. But then I realized that other people are like my friend and really try and block out the fact that they have mental illness, and if they research it, they'll realize that their diagnosis is true and that it really does fit them because the symptoms match theirs and that their doctor was right. But other people, I guess, just don't care, but that's fine too. But I was thinking that these people that don't research it, a lot of the time I hear them, like in PHP and treatment, I've heard people saying that they don't understand why they are the way they are. They don't get why this happened to them and what caused it. And I wanted to talk about that today because there's a lot of factors that play a role in why mental illnesses develop in certain people and why they don't in others. And it's quite a few things. So the first one that is most emphasized and tried to fix with medications is the imbalance in your brain. So there's these things called neurotransmitters that connect signals in your brain, and when there's too much or too little, usually too little, of these neurotransmitters, your brain doesn't function as well or as good as a normal person's brain. So this can cause the symptoms that end up defining a mental illness. So when you take a medication, it's to balance those things and try and get you to a set spot. Another thing is heredity. So in your genes, these things, the tendency to get a mental illness can run in your genes. And it's usually displayed in the family tree. You can see that if somebody in your family has mental illness, you're much more likely to get one. 2, for my family, for example, you can see it running throughout the generations of women specifically suffering from a mental illness, and it's really caused a lot of problems. So you could look at that with your own family or not. Sometimes that doesn't play a role at all, and sometimes you just kind of have it. But there's also what they call social or psychological factors or environmental, which is based on things that happen around you. So kind of the nature versus nurture thing. This can be involved with psychological trauma or emotional, sexual, physical abuse that started from childhood or at any point in your life. Your parents' parenting style, really anything that could happen in your life, divorce, loss, death, changes in jobs, anything like that can really bring on something like a mental illness, and especially if you already have a tendency in your brain or in your genetics to get one. For me, if you're wondering, Stephanie, why do you have borderline personality disorder? Well, I've wondered the same thing. And like I said, it runs in my family. Women in my family suffer from mental illnesses, diagnosed or not. And also, as a child, I didn't really get the emotional support that I needed. It was very emotionally barren, and that really affected me because apparently I'm a very emotional person, which could be because I already had the temperament of somebody with a mental illness as a young child. But I was a really sensitive and needy child and didn't get that kind of attention in an emotional and close knit, loving way. And that really affected me. I also was in an abusive relationship when I was 18. And I know that that kind of worsened my symptoms because I eventually started having symptoms terribly when I was 20. So that's me. You can look at your own life. Everybody goes through something, and some people go through worse things than others, and they can really have an effect on your life and your psyche. So those are the reasons. And I want to make clear that it can be a bunch of these things mixed together. For example, I said I could probably have the temperament of somebody with a mental illness because it does run in my family. But I also experienced things in my life that could have amplified that tendency and brought it on. I could have maybe just had depression or something like that, but I was amplified to a personality disorder and bipolar. You can never really know. But I just hope this clears up the idea that you have no idea where this came from and that it's kind of just something that popped up, because there are things that happen and, genetics that you just can't help. So I want you to know that if you suffer from a mental illness, it's not your fault. There's a lot of things going on and things that we can't help, and unfortunately it happens to the best of us. So I hope you know that if you're suffering, that it's not your fault. So that's why research for mental illness is so important, is because they're trying to find links to why this happens. And even if you don't really care why it happens, why you have a mental illness, it's important because if they find out what causes mental illness and what is the big factor in it, they can find better ways to treat us. And everybody would like a better treatment than what they have now. So if you ever have funds to be able to donate and you're feeling generous, I would highly suggest donating to a mental illness research foundation, and I'll put some in the box if you're interested. But yeah, so that's all I have for today, and I will be back soon with more things to talk about.